Thank you. Indeed, after such an impressive presentation, I don't know what I can do, say more about creativity. So what I'd like to share here is more some global kind of thinking about creativity in the context of emerging challenges. And also, then I'd like to share some of the UNESCO work related to creativity, or to areas that deal with creativity, some of them, because at UNESCO, as you know, is a global organization having to work with a diversity of countries, of diversity of income levels, a diversity of levels of education development. So this provides also some rooms for diversity in our thinking, which I'd like to share with you. Some of them. And then to conclude, I would like to have some thoughts about the way forward in the context of different contexts. So this is just to summarize the challenges that we are facing, and I think the first speaker and as well as Bill have already addressed the challenge that we are facing, and in terms of environment, and also our behaviors in terms of patterns of production and consumptions, increasing, intensifying natural disasters in the face of worsening climate, I would say, change, and intensifying and increasing rising intolerance and right violation across regions and countries, vulnerability, and increasing also inequalities. And then educational crisis that more and more people are talking about. So some statistics, these are the only statistics I'll share with you, not to bombard with too many data and statistics. Broadly, there are 700 million illiterate adults, many of them are women, and also 60%, 60 or 70% of children in low and middle income countries are unable to read or basic text by age 10, which is in low income developing countries, but also we do see like 20% of children also in upper high income countries as well. And then despite all the efforts being made by countries, still close to 250 million young learners still out of school. And now I hope that you guess what I'm referring during the pandemic, where schools were closed in almost all countries. We estimate that in the world there are 1.65 billion students across all levels of education, including pre-primary and university, and virtually 95% of schools were closed, and on average 20 weeks on average school were closed. In some regions like in South Asia and Latin America, the number of schools closed is much more than that, and this amount leads to 2 trillion hours in-person learning, schooling that is missed. So just to say that we are living a world of complex compiled crisis, including in education, which require creative solutions. So I'd like to share some of the thoughts or frameworks that from the perspective of UNESCO on the question to answer how can education help cultivate the creative thinking and solutions to respond to the multiple crises that we are facing. So this is, I hope that most of you know about the Transforming Education Summit that took place in New York in September. And I compiled some of the narratives storylines that are relevant to the discussion that we are having today. Basically, UN Secretary General's vision statement, which state that current education systems are no longer fit for purpose. We are saying it, we all know, but it is a really strong message coming out of the UN Secretary General saying that education systems are no longer fit for purpose. It states that education is not equipping learners with the knowledge, experience, skills, and values needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world, and says that the learning continues to underplay skills, including problem solving, critical thinking, empathy, that are increasingly in high demand to thrive in our society. Here the UN Secretary General, in his vision statement, addresses different aspects of how to deal and transform, in order to transform education in the future, around the 5 action tracks, like how to have more widened education system, and also improve the relevance and quality of learning and learning outcomes, and also how to strengthen the teacher capacity. And also about, he talks a lot about the digital transformation and leveraging technology in order to transform education. And the 5th is about the education financing. One thing that is interesting is he also kind of reframing these 4 pillars of learning. I think you are familiar with the law report and its 4 pillars. And framing it as 4 pillars still, but learning to learn, which is kind of new, but we keep talking. Learning to live together as a 2nd pillar, and third, learning to do and learning to be. What I found interesting is that across all these pillars, we find creativity, critical thinking, all these innovative approaches and so on, consistently across all these 4 pillars. So learning to learn is, we have to put more emphasis on nurturing foundational literacies, creativity, curiosity, capacity for critical thinking from early ages, and also learning to live together with others as well as with the nature. This involves nurturing social emotional skills, empathy, kindness, and learning to do also which has to do with more also need for skilling, not only skilling but also reskilling, unskilling or upskilling, which is also discussed in previous presentations, and also learning to be, which also provides some emphasis on the need to nurture, strengthen students' potential and attributes for creativity, innovation, efficiency, efficacy, and social identities. So it's just to say that it's the creative thinking, creativity, or collaboration, all these aspects is not only confined in this room, but it is a worldwide discourse and discussion that is taking place across countries and globally as well. Now, what I'd like to share here also some cultural relevance of what we are discussing. I'm quoting this from Kara 2015 research the publication, which is a creative research method in the social sciences of practical guide, which also provides some distinctiveness and differences across cultures, especially when it comes to naming it, as well as understanding creativity. As we can see there, according to more Chinese or kind of related environment, like in Korea and other countries, creativity would be more an external social attribute, focusing on what creative people can contribute to society. And then there is something which is slightly different, stating it is more about internal individual attributes. It is more in Western countries, and also it would be a process to help solve problems, which would be more German culture. and also individual attribute that helps people to cope with the challenges of life, which is more embedded in Nordic countries' culture. And some languages have no words that directly translate into creativity, which is in Arabic, for instance. I don't know if it is true. And then some languages have multiple words to mean creativity in secular and religious context, which is more in the African context. So from there, we can also discuss creativity as both attribute as attitude as an attribute to enable the transversal competencies that we can see there and to be cultivated from early age. Now, I'd like to share some examples of what UNESCO have been kind of stimulating as discussion across countries. This is one about the transversal competencies, which are sometimes you call it social emotional learning, soft skills, 21st century skills, and character education. So this is something that UNESCO initiated back in 2012, 11-12. This was when OECD also was discussing about introducing global competence in the PISA program assessment. And we brought together Education Research Institute from countries of different development status. As you know, that Asia and Pacific is a continent of diversity, bringing in Koreans, Japanese, also Singaporeans, but also Laotians, Cambodians, Malaysians, and Indonesia, in order to come up with what we mean by 21st century skills, how to name it. So one name that we coined is that it should, let's call it transversal competencies, and which should cut across all subject in the learning areas. And also we try to, because countries, even though we converge to something that is about the skill sets that are relatively neglected in our education systems on behalf of academic knowledge, having different understanding, framing, and so we come up with that framework that you see on the right side of this slide, clustering these transversal competencies or 21st century into five, six categories of skills that we can see there. So as you see, there is critical and innovative thinking there, with the creativity as one of the strong attributes that needs to stress, to emphasize more. So the findings that we find at that time, I think these findings is still valid, is that when we analyze education policies and plans, they all increasingly recognize the importance of this skill set, including creativity, in society and economy. While at the same time, there is mismatch between education policy and practice, and due to various reasons, creativity is not nurtured in many education systems and teaching practices. At that time, we were discussing whether transversal competence creativity can be taught. And many of these people 10 years ago said that it cannot be taught. It can be nurtured, it can be cultivated, while at the same time now more and more people are saying that creativity, all these transversal competencies can be taught, which I see as an interesting evolution. And lastly, learning assessment. Creativity, all these related personal attributes are difficult to measure, therefore very much neglected, leading, contributing to teaching for the test, and also some kind of rote learning, which still is pervasive in many education systems. Another work that I'd like to share is something that we can see there. It is International Bureau of Education's Educational Practice Series, where they come up with some 8 key principles of creative thinking, with creativity that can promote in all subject matters, subjects, and influence creativity thinking through well-designed learning spaces. It has to do also with open-ended questions instead of providing answers. Engaging learners in meaningful authentic activities, I think also allow for mistakes and sensible risk taking. I think this is what also the previous speakers said. And then the importance of assessment, how to assess and reward creativity, which is not the case in many of our education systems. And then I'd like to share another one, which is which I kind of initiated again in Bangkok. When I used to work at the UNESCO Bangkok, UNESCO office for Asia and Pacific based in Bangkok, we came up this one because after actually it was influenced by PISA results, which say that there are so many education systems where learners say they are unhappy, while especially in high-performing education systems like Japan, Korea, and others, and so on. While in some other countries, especially those low-performing education systems like Malaysia, Indonesia, they are happy, they are satisfied. So we say that knowing that also how many learners are suffering from the high-stake exams and others and so on, while understanding also within education systems, when we ask students whether they are happy, the happier the learners perform better within education systems that we found in some in Republic of Korea, and also, so we wanted to see how we can promote happy schools concept as an enabler of better learning. So this is what you can see there. So we thought that joy of learning could contribute also to better learning and better learning experiences. And so we came up with at that time 3 Ps around people, process, and the plus. And then because of the increasing demand for application of this beyond Asia, so we have just taken a global initiative on happy schools, and adding also another P, which is principles. So basically is that even though it can be controversial that happiness is not necessarily equating with better higher learning, right? At the same time, happy schools can contribute to improving the learning experience and eventually learning outcomes. So this is what I'd like to share, and I should go rather quickly. And then another one is cultivate nurturing this creativity from early age. And we all know that I don't going to speak to emphasize this. You all know that the critical importance of the first 5 years of life for foundational learning, socialization, and development individual and society alike. And we also under the climate change, the issue, the challenges that we are facing, we thought also that this nurturing of the global solutions for through creativity should be nurtured as early as possible, including early sensitization of awareness of creative thinking and action about all these aspects. So from this analysis, and also at the request of member states, UNESCO is organizing the World Conference, the second World Conference on early childhood care and education, addressing also this aspect of creativity, early stimulation and so on in Uzbekistan, Tashkent, 14 and 19. So the register is closed, but it's still possible that you can register and let me know if you'd like to contribute attending this conference. And then eventually, I hope that this is the last slide, is the critical importance of teachers. We can improve the curriculum, you can improve school space, whatever, policy and others, if we don't prepare teachers with the capacity for them to nurture creativity. I think we are going to go nowhere. So teachers and school leaders, either they can enable students' creativity or they can crush it. So this invites us to also how we can strengthen further teachers for them to have more space to creatively engage with students and personalize the teaching and the assessment practices, and also in-service and pre-service teacher training and professional development should embed this aspect of creativity cultivation in their curriculum, in the curriculum and also in their practices. So this is what I want to share on a selected number of UNESCO's initiatives relating to creativity and transversal competencies from different angles. And as I explained, creativity is a key to education transformation, and also creativity as a critically important transversal skill. And the creativity also is joy of learning. I think this is very important. If we don't have joy of learning, I think this we will say that it is going to kill creativity, problem solving, and others. And creativity also a foundation for lifelong learning that should be nurtured and cultivated as early as possible from early years of learning. And also creativity as a principle, primary principle of teaching, I think, once again emphasizing the role of teachers and the importance of strengthening their capacity. This is what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for your attention.